In this live stream video, I want to talk to you from the topic on how to release the voice of real manhood once again in this nation. Because we're living in a time and in an hour where the voice of real men need to be heard in our homes, in our families once again. And we're starting right now. Praise the Lord, everyone. Welcome to the Real Men Rising YouTube channel, Man Talk Live, Saturday night edition. If you're new here, let me know in the chat where you're watching me from. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag team replay. And if you're watching it's live, give us a hashtag team live. I'm your host, Walter Strong, here on Real Men Rising YouTube channel, Man Talk Live. And as I said in our opening tonight, we're going to talk about the topic on how to release the voice of real manhood once again in this nation. And so we're excited tonight. I've been thinking a lot about this topic, and I wanted to share it with you here on Man Talk Live, Saturday night live stream. So without further ado, let's get into the content and get into the discussion. Let me pull up my stream deck. Boom, boom. There we go. The voices of real manhood. Now, the reason why I say the voice or the voices of real man, it's not just about one individual being a voice in this nation, but a voice of collective voices united together. One of the things that I've come to understand, that there is a difference between unity and synergy. There's a difference between unity and synergy. Synergy happens most times where we see it in events like sports, football, basketball, baseball, where the crowd is united together and they are cheering on their team. Whereas unity, everyone is united with one heart, with one purpose, for one cause. So where it's synergy, you may have some individuals, though they are cheering, may not fully be united for the full cause of their team. They may just be rooting for a player, but not so much as the team. But unity, on the other hand, when you have everyone together as one voice, that's true unity. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. And as we're talking about this, to go back and have a history lesson on how the voices of men united together to be one voice and declaring what real manhood is in this nation, in this world, in our homes, in our families. So that's the backdrop of this discussion, this live stream podcast. Let's get started. And the first voices or voice of manhood that I want to talk about, if I can get my presentation, we're going to get this to work here. We're going to get this to work. There we go. There we go. The first voice that I want to talk about is the voice of one Edwin Lewis Cole. Some know him as Ed Cole. Most people knew him as Edwin Lewis Cole, the founder of the Christian Men's Network back in 1977, where he first launched this ministry to be able to speak to the hearts of men in this nation. for men to understand the message that manhood and Christ being Christ-like was synonymous. It was one in the same. And this man, from the start of 1977, began to go from different churches to different events, sharing the message that Christ-like, being Christ-like, a Christian, and being a man was synonymous as one. He is known for the book called Maximize Manhood. Maximize Manhood, which was a New York bestseller book on the New York Times list, and it was a book that was very well received, not just by men in the church, but even men who didn't go to church. As the Christian Men's Network began to grow, and through the release of this book, by 1997, he had released a full men's curriculum on helping men to understand the importance of being a man of God and being a Christian man who was a man of integrity, a man who had the character of being faithful, a man who had integrity, a curriculum that really helped to educate men in the church on what it meant to have and understand your place, not just in the church, but in the home. Okay. And his main goal for the Christian Men's Network was to build men. To build men, God had given him a mandate to reach and to touch, to encourage the hearts of men. And as he built men up in the things of God, in the kingdom of God, that would also help to build our churches. And as they help to build our churches, it will help to shape and change our culture of our nation. Because at that time, when he was sharing this message of manhood, from maximized manhood to being a strong man in tough times to being a real man, there was a culture where men were being confronted with the flood of pornography. And not just pornography in the world, but men were wrestling with pornography even in the church. And so he had a passion to want to see men rise up and be true men of God. His voice would ultimately be rallied behind other men that became a voice that became a national platform in this nation. And so when I talk about raising up the voice of real manhood once again, when you look at this national platform in which we live in, there is an absence, I believe, in today's time where real men's voices are not being heard on a national platform level. Men's voices are being heard on a national level for other things such as technology, media, entertainment, business, finance. But when it comes to the message of being Christ-like and manhood, as Edwin Lewis Cole shared and taught in building men and building churches to change our culture, that voice is absent today. It's absent on a national level. It's absent. And one of his favorite quotes that he shared a lot of powerful nuggets and truths, but one particular quote that really has stood out to me even to this day was the quote that a person who falls in the water, when they fall in the water, they don't drown. A man doesn't fall in the water and drown. A man falls in the water and drowns when he chooses to stay there. He chooses to stay there. And how does he choose to stay there? When he refuses to cry out for help. He makes the poor judgment and the bad decision to cry out and to say, I need help with my life. God, I need you to help me with my life because my life is in a mess. My life is in shambles. Too many times we as men think coming to God means when I have everything all together. When I've lived my life and I've had all my fun, that's when I'll get serious about God. But let me ask you a question on that mindset, that thought process. When you have to take your clothes to the cleaners, do you take your brand new clothes that you bought from the store, from the men's store, and take it to the cleaners when they're brand new and they're clean? No one does that. But you take your clothes, your favorite suit, your favorite pair of jeans, your favorite pair of shirts to the cleaners when they're dirty, when they need to be cleaned. Because you don't want to mess them up and put them in a washing machine where you end up shrinking them. You end up taking them to the cleaners when they're dirty. And that's what Ed Cole was saying, in a sense. When men fall in the water, they don't drown because they fall in the water. They drown because they make the poor decision and bad judgment and staying there without calling out for help. First to God, and then second to his fellow brother. Too many times we as men are struggling and dealing with silent battles in our hearts and in our minds, but we stay silent because we don't want to tell the next person that we're going through. Hey, if you're just joining me tonight, we're talking about the importance of releasing and raising up the voice of real manhood in this nation once again. Let me know in the chat where you're watching me from. Give me a hashtag Team Live. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag Team Replay. So, the Christian Men's Network. So, what happened? What happened? What happened? Well, as years passed on, as he would go and have men's conferences from churches to stadiums, as the 90s came to a close around 2000, as I was doing my research, his wife, Nancy Cole, unfortunately died of cancer. And so that took a real toll on him. And then he began to have serious health issues himself. And by 2002, he ended up having issues that he ended up having to step down in the organization of the Christian Men's Network. And as a result, from my research, there never seemed to be a successor that helped to continue on the Christian Men's Network. And eventually it faded away. It faded away. And the message of being Christ-like and manhood began to no longer be heard. But when one voice begins to go silent, God can always raise up another voice, which brings me to my next point. Promise keepers. How many of you have heard of promise keepers? Promise keepers came on the scene in 1990 of December 3rd. Then Coach Bill McCarthy of the University of Colorado. The AD, from my research, the AD asked Coach McCartney a question about one day about what truly fueled him and what really gave him passion. And I, from what my research, it seems like he was kind of asking that from a life and a football standpoint. And then he shared with the AD that his true, real passion was, though he was grateful for being the head coach of the University of Colorado, was to be and to have an arena of men, young and old, on fire and living their lives for Christ. And the AD was so moved by this, the athletic director was so moved by this, he gave him the platform and the opportunity where he ended up filling up a gymnasium of over 2,200 men, and they came together and they talked about what it meant to be a real man of integrity, what it meant to be a real Christian man. And as a result of that event happening, this empowered and gave Coach McCarthy the vision to want to go and to start filling football stadium arenas across this country with men who would come together and not to come to have church, but to come to understand what it meant to be a man of God in the Bible, to be a Christian man. And some places would have and host almost 22 to 30,000 men, and they would charge a registration of about $60 to about $100 for men to attend this. And the men came out in droves. One of their most famous books that they ended up writing during this period of time was called What Makes a Man? Again, answering the question about what real manhood is about. And that question today still needs to be defined. We still need clarity on what real manhood is and what a real man is. And as the Promise Keepers begin to gain momentum, again, the focus wasn't so much in terms of the church, but to be able to encourage men so that when they went back into the church, they would have an important and prominent role in the church and in the kingdom of God. Because unfortunately, even in today's time, too many of our churches are filled with women. Men, unfortunately, our young men are absent. Our older men are there, but they're much older and much seasoned as elders, but there's no generation for them to look back and to mentor and to encourage. And so Promise Keepers saw the need to be able to, hey, we need to speak into the lives of men. And again, one of the prominent threats that men were facing in that time, and I dare say men are facing in today's time, was pornography, alcohol, drugs, and addiction. And so sharing the message of being a man of integrity and being a Christian man was important to Coach McCartney. And they began, as I said, to fill football stadiums. Until 1997, they ended up having an event called Standing in the Gap, which one internet article read as a very sacred event in the Washington, D.C. mall. And some of the articles that I read said there were close to almost 600 to 800,000 men in attendance in 1997 at Standing in the Gap. That's how on fire men were for God. The voice of real manhood was spoken loud in Washington, D.C. in 1997 of having over 600 to 800,000. One video that I listened to about this shared, when most times when people have events at Washington, D.C. in the National Mall, it becomes, after the event is over, it becomes a very challenging thing for the people and the employees of the Washington, D.C. area, because you have to clean up all of the debris and garbage that's left behind. But one of the things that he shared that set the mark for all future events was that there was very to little debris or trash to have to be cleaned up after 600 to 800,000 men. They left a standard of how men of integrity carry themselves in public together as one. Well, what happened to Promise Keepers? What happened to Promise Keepers? Hey, let me know in the chat where you're watching me from. I see you in the chat. Let me know in the chat where you're watching me from. Give me a hashtag Team Live in the chat. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag Team Replay. What happened to Promise Keepers? Well, what happened to Promise Keepers after that 1997 event was that the direction to start reaching after the family, after women and children, became a mandate instead of staying focused on their main mandate, which were men. And as a result, the registrations got raised up, and unfortunately, the numbers began to decrease. And as a result, Coach McCartney ended up stepping down. There was no real successor in place to keep it going. But one video that I saw was that around 2019, before the pandemic. Now, this is what I found interesting. I see you, Josh Thompson. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Man Talk Live. I see you. From Florida. What I found interesting is they were getting ready to have an event, and I can't remember the guy's name who ended up becoming the head of Promise Keepers. His name escapes me. And they were going to have it in Dallas, Texas in 2020. But what we did not know what would happen would be then the pandemic, and then the whole nation would be shut down. And from my research, I couldn't find where Promise Keepers end up reestablishing itself to have more events. And so as a result, it's kind of faded in the background. They're still there. Promise Keepers is still here. It's still here. But it's now faded in the background. And so you have the Christian Men's Network that was around from 1977 to 2002. You have Promise Keepers from 1990 to still today. But that national presence of real men coming together, declaring the voice of real manhood. Now, you may ask, Walter, you keep saying the voice of manhood. What is that? Being Christ-like, being a man of God, being a kingdom man, being a man who lives for God and who has a relationship with Jesus Christ. That's the message that I'm talking about. That's the voice that needs to be heard once again. And we're going to get into that more and more. So, which brings me now to point number 3. Manpower. Manpower burst on the scene back in 1994 under the direction of Bishop T.D. Jakes, which he ended up having his first Manpower conference, but Manpower event at the time in Detroit, Michigan, at a church called Straight Gate Church, where the pastor was Bishop Andrew Merritt. Now, the reason why I know that, because I'm from Detroit, Michigan. And so when I learned about how the Manpower event was first launched in Detroit, it really caught my attention. But it was a small gathering of about 100 men. And Bishop took that message about being a true man of God, being a man who had integrity, who was faithful, a man who wanted to be a great husband, a devoted father, and a faithful son. He took that message, and then the next Manpower was then held 1 year later at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, who then was the senior pastor, Bishop Eddie Long, the late great Bishop Eddie Long, and they had it in Atlanta, and they had the release of a book called Tonight We Wrestle. And so Manpower, for the most part, were just in churches. But later on, into the 90s, he went from churches to arenas. He began to have conferences in arenas where men would get together, anywhere from 15 to 30,000 men in the arena. One particular event that really moved on my heart was the one called Man on a no, not Man on a Mission. Yeah. No, it was the year 2000. I forget the theme, but me and some of our men in our church, we attended that Manpower conference. And it's one thing to watch a a Christian men's network or a Promise Keeper on TV or a Manpower on TV, but to go live an event and see it live and in color with almost 19 to 30,000 men together, rallying together about wanting to be true men of God who serve God, it was truly life-changing. And so the voice of real manhood was being lifted up and declared through the ministry of Bishop T.D. Jakes and Manpower. Some of his most prominent books was Loose That Man and Let Him Go, and his New York bestsellers, He Motions, which I still have to this day. That is one powerful, powerful book. So I went to 2000 Manpower, 2001. I got married, so there was no way my wife was going to let me go to Manpower. But 2002, me and the guys, we went to North Carolina, and that was Men on a Mission. And again, being in that setting of real men who, and I mean, black men, white men, Caucasians, Asians, Hispanic, it didn't, no matter the race or the color. These were all men together who said that they love God and they love Christ and they want to make a difference. They all rallied together as one voice, raising the standard of manhood. And so you look on a national level in today's time in our country, that voice is not being heard. Now, that's not to say that there are not men's ministries not operating. There are men's ministries functioning and operating in today's times. But I'm talking about on a national platform level where you have 15 to 30 to even, I dare say, as Promise Keepers had in 1997, 600 to 800,000 men together as one. We're not seeing that. And I believe now with the change and the use of technology and YouTube that's giving us a platform, you know, and I've been one of those content creators who want to create content on YouTube and teach people how to create YouTube. But this thought really came to me and hit me so hard as I was preparing to share this message, Josh, that too many of us as content creators, as men, we want the likes, we want the subscribers, we want the comments from people on our YouTube channels. But then when we stop the live stream and the video is over, we're having difficulty being able to speak to our own sons as men. I'm gonna go there tonight. I'm gonna go there. We have these elaborate battle station live stream stations where we have the latest tech and camera, Sony and Rodecaster Pro, and we live in these places sometimes from 6 to 8 hours, but we're not welcome in the bedroom with our wives because we have some very, very strange issues in our relationships with our spouses. And so we're going after the wrong audiences, men, instead of us going after the right audience, which is our spouses and our children. And we have a platform of YouTube. If we would just get in line as Christian men and declare the real voice of manhood, men would be empowered to be able to take the gospel of Jesus Christ and share the message of the kingdom of God in a powerful and fresh new way. Which brings me to number 4. So we talked about the Christian Men's Network. We've talked about Promise Keepers and Manpower. What are some other voices in today's times? Well, that we've been hearing. Well, one has been, if you're familiar with the Kendricks brothers, they came out with a movie called Courageous. And that was a movie that caught national attention. That the hearts and the priorities of men needed to get in order. There were so many powerful scenes about this movie. In my opinion, this is probably the best Christian movie that I've ever seen. I dare say even non-Christian movie. And I love my Dark Knight, Batman trilogies. I love the Lord of the Rings. I love Endgames with the Avengers. But none of those movies equate or line up to Courageous. If you've ever seen the opening scene of Courageous, there is a gentleman who is getting some gas, a black man who's getting some gas, and you see from the side another black man kind of watching him as he's pumping the gas. And so the gentleman who's pumping the gas reaches to get the squeegee so he can clean his windshield. And he realizes that squeegee doesn't have any water solution into it so he can clean it. So he has his keys in his truck and he feels, hey, let me just reach over. We've all did it, right? As men, we reach over go to the other side and grab the squeegee. And just as he's making the move for the other squeegee, you see the gentleman in the background sprint real fast, jump in the truck, and takes off with the truck. Tries to steal the man's truck. And so we later find out that he is the gentleman whose truck is being stolen. We later find out that he is a police officer. He grabs the wheel with the gentleman still trying to drive off with it. And he's like, hey, let go. But he refuses to let go. The theme of what we learn from this opening scene is don't let go of the wheel. And ultimately, he holds on to the wheel and he causes the gentleman to crash into a tree and run off the side of the road. And he takes off and runs and jumps into the other car. But then people see what's going on and you see him trying to get to the truck. And they say, please, sir, stay down. Help is on the way. But he says, no, I can't. He reaches to the back door of the truck. He opens the door. What does he find? He finds his son in the car, in the baby car seat, crying, upset from the whole trauma of the truck crashing into the tree and everything. But he's okay. And what do we learn from that opening scene of Courageous that teaches us as men that no matter what we're going through in our homes, no matter what we're going through in our marriages, no matter what we're going through with our children, with our sons and our daughters, don't let go of the wheel. It's a message on a national level that really challenges us as men to stop letting go of the wheel. Now, that movie, it came on DVD, it came on cable, and it has a curriculum for us, but it's since moved on because the Kendrick brothers have made other movies. They've made Fireproof. They made some other movies that are just, I think there's a movie called The Forge now. But Courageous was a movie that was specific to us as men to challenge us not to let go of the wheel, not to let the wheel go regarding our relationship with God. Another voice of manhood that has been speaking in this time is through Authentic Manhood, a group of men coming together to have a Bible study. Pastor Brian Carter and Tice Green, I can't think of the other gentleman, and they challenge us on understanding the realities of what real manhood is. And so they have about 6 different volumes on the topic of authentic manhood. You can search it online. Go on YouTube and say Authentic Manhood, and you'll find some curriculum. There's another voice. Then you have Tony Evans with Kingdom Man. You have Chris Broussard with King Movement. And I dare say even Tony Dungy. He's come on the scene and really spoke and challenged men on a national level. So there are voices out there. There are voices. However, what about today's times, in today's time, on a national platform level, where there's men out there like International Christian Brotherhood, which is a men's ministry that men like Minister Rod Patterson and Chaplain John Johnson, part of Christian Cultural Center under the direction of Pastor L. Bernard, they're out there. World Deliverance of Ministry, Men of Valor, Minister Williams Sorrell and Pastor Barney Murray and Bishop Chris Holmes, they're out there with the with Men of Valor and Arizona Christian Men's Fellowship. And that's where Real Men of Rising comes up. When we started this channel, when I got the vision for this channel, the vision of this YouTube channel was not just to create content, just to give men an encouraging word, but to challenge men to raise the standard of manhood and raise up the voice of manhood in our homes and our families, so that we can raise the standard of manhood not just today, but in the generations to come. There are other men's ministries out there. The question that I have for you today, those of you who are joining me live or watching the replay, are you letting your voice be heard today? Are you letting your voice being heard? Or are you just being an echo? I'll let that breathe for a moment. You know, I have a video that's on the channel right now called The Eagle's Mentality. One of the things that we share in that video is that there's a difference between a parrot and an eagle. A parrot is a bird that repeats and talks a lot of words that it is heard from other people or its surrounding. But it's a bird of little action. It can't fly very high. It's a bird that speaks a lot of words, but very little action. But the eagle is a bird of action and speaks very few words and communicates in very few words. My question to you, if you're going to raise up the voice of manhood, are you going to be a parrot who's just repeating a lot of stuff you heard? Or are you going to be an eagle? Hey, if you're getting great value out of this discussion on raising up the voice of real manhood in this nation, once again, do me a favor. Click the like button for me. Hit that thumbs up. Share this on your favorite social media platform. Encourage another man that you know. And if you're new to Real Men Rising YouTube channel and you want to learn how to lead by love and integrity in your home, as a husband, as a father, as a man, you want to be a great husband, a faithful father, and a devoted son, subscribe to the channel. Click the alert notification button and be a part of the conversation of real men. So let's get into summary here. We talked about the past voices of manhood, from Edwin Lewis Cole to Christian Men's Network to Coach Bill McCartney with Promise Keepers, to Bishop T.D. Jakes' Manpower and the other voices like the Kendrick Brothers and the Courageous Movie and Tony Evans and Kingdom Man. And we've even talked about today's voices. What about your voice? Is your voice being heard today? Let me know in the chat here. That's our content today here. That's the content. If you have a question, if you have a comment, I see quite a few comments here. Let me pull these up right quick. Start from the bottom, work my way up. Josh says, I've been silent for a long time. Well, Josh, I don't believe nothing happens by accident. I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe in circumstances. I don't believe that things just happen just by circumstance. You came across my YouTube channel for a reason, and that's to encourage you. If you are going to be silent, be an eagle. Don't be a person who stays silent and knows you need to speak up. Appreciate the compliment of calling me pastor. I'm just another man of God who just wants to encourage other men. That's my mission there. That's my mission tonight, and that's our mission with the channel. If there's any others who are watching us live tonight, just like Josh has commented here in the chat, I want to give you the opportunity to share your comment, or if you have a question, put a Q in front of the question. Because we want to encourage you, as we've encouraged Josh. Don't stay silent. And if you are a content creator who's creating content, and on top of, let me say this the right way, because I was just as guilty of this myself. But the thought came to me, Walter, you are so concerned about likes and views, getting more subscribers. But then when the video ends, when the live stream goes off, are you willing to reach out and speak to your children the same way you want to speak to someone on YouTube in the comment section? You have the latest tech and camera, audio, microphone, a great live stream battle station, but you're sleeping on the couch. Are you a man who's sleeping on the couch because you and your wife had a disagreement? I'm telling you what I know, Josh. I'm telling you what I know. Those of you who are watching me live tonight, I know of content creators who are so consumed about getting 100,000 subscribers, that gold play button, but their family, they're in trouble with their families as men. And so over the next couple live streams, we're going to really peel back this onion, peel back the layers until we are men who are willing to come together, rallying together with other men, that our voice is being heard. I don't see any other comments or questions. Josh says, I joined because the urge to grow. Okay, sir. Hey, it's about being a group of real men, and we're going to keep it real together. As you share content, you share your thoughts in the comment section on videos. We're going to encourage one another. We're going to encourage other men. Well, that's our content tonight. As I said, when you get a chance, check out some of our other content that we have on the channel. If you have been really struggling as a man to stay encouraged to the point where you feel like you want to give up and quit, check out our latest video on Don't Quit, and understand that pressure may burst pipes, but pressure makes diamonds. And so no matter what pressure you're going through as a man, it's preparing you to be a man of diamonds that add value to others. We also have some content called Overcoming Burnout. And so, get a chance, check that out. Check out our podcast section, where you'll find our previous live streams on the state of manhood and overcoming the silent battles in our lives as men. Josh, thank you so much for being here on the live stream and just being active in the chat. Those of you who are watching, hey, in our next live stream, we want to see you in the chat as well. And if you're on Team Replay, let us know. So we're going to go ahead and get up on out of here. We'll let you enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. And again, thank you all. We will talk to you soon. God bless.